All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining me from. I want to welcome you to this channel, Weapon in Education, where we believe that there is power in education and we subscribe to the educational philosophy as in the word education, which says enduring discipline under careful assessment and trained instruction. To those of you who joined us in our previous video, we did talk about characteristics of a good research. In our explanation, we were able to define research. We explain research as an intentional, systematic, and purposeful inquiry using various methods. Now, the point under discussion is purposeful. It is against the backdrop that we've decided to explain in today's video what the purpose of a research is. I am your presenter, Paul Dominic Jarrett Jr. Let's get started. At the end of today's class presentations, participants will be able to discuss the purposes or the purpose of research. They will also identify research according to purpose and form research purpose. So you are going to learn in this video how to form your own research purpose. All right? Before we launch our discussion into what research purpose is, we believe it is important to first look at some important concepts. And the first important concept under discussion is purpose. Everyone has purpose. We have purpose on our daily lives. We have purpose in everything that we engage in. So the point here is, what then is referred to as purpose? I think you can see the image of a lady on a road. If you look keenly, you see the screen. There's a lady who has left a distance from here and she has reached this point. Now, the point we are illustrating here is defining purpose. It says purpose is the reason why something is done. The lady is embarking on this journey because she has a purpose. In the first place, before leaving her home or wherever she might have come from, one may say maybe she come from office, the way she officially dressed, apparently going home. Whatever assumption you may have concerning where she comes from or where she is going, the fact remains is that she has a reason for why she left from where she left. And she has a reason of going to where she is going. So purpose defines the reason why something happened. It is the aim, the intention. What do you hope to gain? All right. So if you look at Britannica dictionary definition, it says the reason why something is done or use the aim or intention of something. Now, having defined what or discuss what purpose is, let us now link purpose to research purpose. We said in our daily lives we have purpose or purposes for everything that we do and things that we do. Now, the point is, what then is purpose in research, or what is referred to as research purpose? Research purpose enhances society as it advances knowledge through scientific theories, concepts, and ideas. Now, the reason researchers engage in research is so as to better society, so as to make society to be comfortable for human existence. All right? If research is conducted aimed at a particular problem And that problem is a problem that is affecting society. And who are those that make up the society? People. So people life will become better if the problems around them are being solved. So in order to identify a particular problem, then the researcher should keep in mind a purpose. Why am I doing this? Now I have seen this problem, but why is it important for this problem to be looked into? Why is it important to investigate this problem? What is the reason? Is it important in order to help us develop knowledge, or is it important in order to help society or members of society to take action towards a particular problem solving? So when we say research purpose, it is defining the reason why a researcher has accepted to conduct a research on a particular problem that is affecting society. And the essence of it could be to generate knowledge, or it could be geared towards taking action towards solving problems that are affecting society. All right? Now, research purpose summarizes what the research is about. Any research paper, whether a dissertation, whether a thesis, whether let's say an article, or whatever research document you take, right? It summarizes the purpose in that research document. We give you a summary of what the research is about. So that's why, or when we talk about purpose, that's what we mean purpose of a research or research purpose. Some will say research according to purpose. Now, quickly, research purpose can be categorized into basic research. Every researcher who conducts a research, the purpose that they have in mind of conducting such study either falls in one of these categories that we are about to explain. So the first category, honor review, is basic research. What then is basic research? Basic research is sometimes referred to as fundamental or pure research. Why do we consider basic research fundamental or pure research? It is a fundamental research because it is geared towards gaining knowledge. So a research that is conducted in order for the finding of the research not to be used as an application to apply to a particular problem, it is considered a basic research. What are some basic research we can point to? We can look at our research projects in universities, especially undergraduate, right? During a thesis. And then looking at research in dissertation. Even there are some of these researches that are done in order to solve a problem, to take an action towards solving a problem. But both of the student research that we see fall in the category of basic research, where the supervisor or whosoever that is carrying on your supervisory role will want to see whether there is an understanding or there is an understanding of a particular problem that is existing in your field of study, or you have an understanding or concept of conducting a research. So the essence of this basic research is to generate knowledge. And in generating knowledge, what do? We do form theory, and we also test theories. So it is possible that you are beginning a basic research, you form theories of the research that you are conducting. So we say it involves generalization. Why do we need generalization? We need generalization because we want to see whether a particular case that has been studied can be generalized to the rest of the population. And we say the method we can use either inductive or deductive reasonings. Now, what do we mean by inductive and deductive reasoning? Inductive reasoning is a form of generalization in which the researcher uses a particular case or a specific condition and generalizes to the entire population. So when a particular situation or findings from the research suggest, then we say, based on this study, therefore, all are like this, or the theories that are being developed, these are the theories, right? Now, deductive reasoning. In deductive reasoning, what the researcher does is that the researcher begins with a theory in inductive reasoning. So the researcher will find a particular theory and say, for instance, we say, all men are great, for example, right? All men are great. Is it true that all men are great? It could be a theory. So a researcher who is embarking on basic research will want to find out whether truly all men are great. So in order to find out, the such researcher will have to collect data on such theory, analyze the data, and then come up with findings. Now the researcher can generalize. All right? So we say basic research is important for forming theory, and it increases or adds on to knowledge. How does it increase our knowledge? How does it add on to knowledge? When we investigate a particular problem, it can be scientific problem, it can be social problem, whatever problem it may be. The fact remains that those or the researcher who conduct such a study will have a developed understanding of the problem. So basic research helps to increase or add on to knowledge of the researcher. We say it is conducted on a systematic basis. It is a process basis. It does not take into account a systematic process. The researcher who conducts basic research follows series of steps. Step from identifying the problem, defining your problem, to the point of data collection, to the point of data analysis. So you cannot identify the problem and then render conclusion. Right there we say research has problem, right? So a research that is a basic research should be systematic. Most basic research, most times, a single individual determines the research objectives. So a single individual can decide the objective of the research. The researcher objective is defined most times by an individual, unlike other researches in which companies will have to determine the researcher objective. So the individuals that are involved in the study does not have any room to decide which objective to include in the study, because it has been defined by the organization or the company that is conducting the study. But this, in basic research, the researcher has the will single-handedly to determine the research objectives. Now let's look at one example. A study looking to see how children are affected by divorce. A study could be designed to look at how children are affected by divorce. Now, most times people who have divorce think that the divorce only affects the woman, but it does not affect the children. So a research that is conducted to look into to see whether children are also affected by divorce. Such a study is a basic research. Why? Because it is meant to gain knowledge. So such a study can build up the knowledge of a particular field of study. Apparently, you might be a sociology student who reading marriage and family. So such data can be used to inform you of the consequences or how divorce affects children. A researcher could conduct a study to understand the leadership style of Mama Enterprise. Mama Enterprise is an entertainment center, right? But what style of leadership is being used at Mama Enterprise? So there's no focus in mind to say we want to solve a particular problem. But the thing is to understand what leadership style. If we understand the leadership style that Mama Enterprise is using, apparently that is causing more customers to come, then we can say, well, such leadership style, when applied in other areas, can be able to boost customers to come too. The next category we're going to look at is applied research. So earlier on we talked about basic research as a research that is meant to what? To develop theory to gain understanding by adding onto knowledge or increasing knowledge. So we say we conduct a research can be conducted in order to gain understanding or for knowledge purpose. Now, what is applied research? Applied research is also called functional or field research. Why it is a functional or field research? It is because it is meant to take action to solving a problem. So applied research aim is to solve a problem. Unlike basic research, which aims at generating knowledge or proving or disproving a theory. But this research, what it does is that it is conducted to improve a system. It is conducted to take action towards a particular problem that are affecting the society or affecting an institution, right? It's mostly in institution. So we say it seeks to find solution for a specific problem. Unlike basic research, applied research is non-systematic. The researcher can decide to take any step towards finding out solutions to the problem. Findings of applied research can be applied to resolve problems, not usually generalized. So we use the findings. The researcher can use the finding of an applied research to resolve a problem. There may be a problem occurring in a particular place, but how to solve this problem? In order to know how to solve this problem, we conduct a research, and that research we'll be conducting is applied research. So in that case, we do not easily generalize the situations to other places because what is unique in one area may be different in another area. We say most times it is conducted by institutions. So companies will look into their system and find out why this thing is happening or what strategies we can use in order to get this done or to get that done. So to do that, you need an applied research, a practical research that can be used in order to find out the problems to the solution. The solutions to the problems. Sorry. Now let's look at an example. We say finding out ways to improve worker satisfaction at Diana's restaurant in Monrovia. If the management of Diana's restaurant in Monrovia have embarked on a particular study to improve worker satisfaction, apparently workers are satisfied or there's a problem with satisfaction. So what can we do in order to improve the satisfaction of workers at our restaurant? So if you find out these solutions, these ways of solving the problem of improving worker satisfaction, we say you are conducting applied research. Another study could be developing strategies to connect the railway in our region. So if you develop the strategies, you use the strategies and see whether the railway will be connected in your region, then the study is applied research. So the purpose of that research is applied. Now, let's look at the next one, which is action research. Action research is sometimes called practitioner research. It is a practitioner research because it is conducted in a particular field of study. or it could not be a study, but in a particular field, let's say. So people or researchers who conduct action research, they are mostly practitioners. Let's take, for example, I am a teacher teaching a class, but then there is a particular problem with instruction that I have observed in a classroom. It could be with learning of the students, how well the students learn, and it could be with student classroom management, it could be with the approach of teaching that I'm using, it could be with any form, right? But as a professional, as a teacher, I am the one who observing the problem. Therefore, I can reflect on the problem, right? So we say it is conducted to improve our practice. Action research is used to improve practice. When a researcher aims at improving the practice in a field, like we say the teacher who is in a classroom, his or her concern is to improve on the teaching learning practices at his school or her school or in the classroom. To do that, there are a series of steps that are identified by O'Leary in 2000. It says the researcher who is conducting action research should first observe. So you are a teacher in a class, you should observe what is the problem that are affecting teaching and learning in a classroom. Having observed, you reflect on the problem. You see the arrow here? You reflect on the problem at hand. Only then can you plan what to do or what not to do. After planning, the next point is to take an action. Because the end product of action research is to take action. And when we take action, we have improved on what the problem was. We have improved the situation from the worst condition to the better. But if we have taken action and we observe that the action taken, it is still having some problem. What do we do? We observe. You look at the arrow here coming here, right? You observe again and see whether the problem still exists. And if there is a situation, it requires reflection, another reflection. And to reflect on that, or having reflected, you plan what to be done. Next, you take an action. You observe again. So it is a cycle. Action research is cyclical. It happens and happens and happens and happens until the problem is solved. Right? It solves problem mostly through collaborative means. Action research has individual action research. Action research has in education specifically, it has school-wide action research. It also has collaborative action research. So whether you are conducting the study in your school or you are conducting the study in another area, most times researchers in this field collaborate. Collaborating means coming together to put their ideas together and think on the way to solving the problems in their school or in their environment or their field. We say it is common in the field of education. So most times people say they just refer to action research as teacher research because it is mostly conducted by teachers in classrooms and school authorities. Mind you, it is not only assigned to the classroom. A school authority can decide to take action towards a particular problem that is affecting their school. All right? Even the district. All right. Researchers can be part of the study or the area of the study. We'll give an example. We'll talk about a teacher who is in a classroom, right? If the teacher takes on such action, the teacher is part of the study or the area that he or she is studying. So as an example, study conducted on how to get students to take homework seriously. You see, this is a problem. A researcher conducts a study on how to get students to take homework seriously because he or she has observed that whenever homeworks are given to the students take the homework lightly and they do not take seriousness towards the homework. So it is a problem, and this problem can go a long way when not investigated to know what causes this problem, and what can be done in order to solve this problem. So when this problem is being investigated, the goal of investigating this problem is to take action. So we realize that most times action research is considered as a form of applied research because it is meant on taking action, practical action towards solving problem. Let's look at another example. It's a flexible sitting in 4th grade classroom to increase effective collaborative learning. So if you get a student sitting in a 4th grade classroom, but the sitting capacity they are not flexible, the students are not able to collaborate. In collaborative learning, the students will sit in group and work together as team members, right? So they come up with fresh ideas. But if you have a classroom without collaborative, that is not flexible in terms of sitting, it will be difficult for students to collaborate. It is a problem. And to investigate this problem, you do not need, even if you read a book that has to do with situation of not having flexible seating in classrooms, it may help you to some extent, but it won't be practical. It won't help you practically because this condition raised by the traditional researcher might not fit in your given situation because you have different category of students. You have different caliber. From various backgrounds. Their level of thinking is not the same, right? So an actual researcher can find a particular document or someone who has done a study and think that he or she can apply such to his or condition in the classroom or in the school, but it may not alter well as compared to you, the problem. You who sitting in such a class and having such a problem, you are observing the problem, you can reflect on the problem, and then you can find a way of coming up with solution to that problem. Now, all of these categories, the 3 categories, basic research, applied research, action research that we just talked about, these are categories into which we can place purposes of research, but there are individual research according to purposes. Explanatory research, descriptive research, exploratory research, and predictive research. Now you see, all of these falls into one of these categories earlier explained. But looking at these categories, how well can we classify them? We say descriptive research and exploratory research, they are research meant to gather information. So these researches are meant to gather information, while explanatory research and predictive research are meant for testing theory or hypothesis, what we call hypothesis. Now let's look at them one by one. The first research under discussion is descriptive research. Descriptive research describes, as the word suggests, it describes what? Characteristics of variables based on past studies, and we say it adds something new to the past study. So this research, it helps to describe a particular characteristics, how something is happening, right? Now, it is a quantitative research because why? It collects data. It collects information for statistical analysis, right? This descriptive research is the basis for further research. When the result of this research is released or being found, we say what happened, it can lead to another research. So most of the time we take like the census research that is conducted in order to find out how many women live in the country, how many men live in the country, how many unemployed, how many employed. All of these data are collected through statistical means. Why? We use the data there to describe our population. Okay? Now, what method do we use in the descriptive research? We use both quantitative and qualitative research methods. In this, a researcher will select a particular case or case study, right? In selecting a case study, it will lead to hypothesis and it will further widen the scope of studying the phenomenon under investigation, right? A researcher can also use a survey method where respondents will answer questionnaire. He will design a questionnaire like the election, right? Electors are about to go to election. What happens? They will go to the pool. The essence of having the electors going to the pool is so that you can govern us and see how many number of persons have agreed that this person should represent us. So at the end, you do tallying. You come up with your findings in terms of what percentage or whatever analysis you may give it, and then conclude, right? So, like for example, say survey on the working condition of nurses at a Peaceful Medical Clinic in Pennsylvania. So, if you conduct such a study, you want to describe what are the working conditions of nurses at the Peaceful Medical Clinic in Pennsylvania. Are they in good condition? I mean, is it a good working relationship or whatever your description will be, but the fact remains that the variables that are in that data will be described. Apparently, there might have been a study earlier on, and it is against that backdrop that such a study is ongoing in order to describe what their working conditions are. All right. Now, let's look at the next research, exploratory research. We say it explores, it is meant to discover and uncovers, right? Exploratory research investigates problems, and these problems are not clearly defined. The researcher will have to gather preliminary information, right, in order to come up with understanding of what the problem is. For a real understanding of the problem, there's got to be a preliminary data of investigation. This research, it answers questions such as what, why, or how. The important part about exploratory research is that it is low in cost, is not costly as compared to other researches, because the population identified or the sample of study is small. And because the sample is small, we cannot use the sample or the result from the study to generalize. So if we are investigating a particular problem affecting a particular institution or department in our institution, we cannot generalize to other departments in our institution or generalize to other institutions. So we exploring, we have no idea, we do preliminary investigation to even build a concept. We are just wondering, it's like a scientist just running around the place and need to understand, but there have been no prior. So to understand, you just have to have preliminary. All right? It is usually a foundation for further research. So the result from that study can be used for further research. And it is not accurate interpreted. Like we said earlier on, it is not used for generalizing to the entire population. What does this research do? What method do we use? We use primary and secondary methods in order to collect data of exploratory research. In primary method, the researcher can decide to use survey. The researcher can use interview by talking to the participants, focus group with a topic on mind to have participants gather around and discuss. All right. Using secondary, we use existing research, and this study there's mostly limitation of existing research. There are not much researches that might have been done on such a topic. So a researcher wants to explore to come up with an understanding of a particular situation. Look at this example. It says a researcher who witnessed the huge intake of foreign students at his school may explore research on the factors that attract foreign students to the school. So you want to find existing literature on this. You may find existing literature, but will not be specifically in the context of student intake in other institutions. Not many persons might have done such a research, because most research people do, they want to generalize the findings of their study. But this research is conducted by a few group of people. So you will just see someone who have done similar research in institutions of that kind. But whatever their findings were, they cannot use it to generalize the population. It could be used to help to make system improve. It can be used to give giving an understanding, right? The management of that institution can use it to have an understanding of where the problem lies and what can be done. Now, quickly, let's look at explanatory research. Explanatory research, it is also called causal research. Why? This research, it tests hypotheses about cause and effect relationships, right? So that's why we say test and understand causal relationship. Cause and effect relationship. If this thing happened, what caused it to happen? And if it has happened, what is the effect of it happening? Such research we say is explanatory research. The researcher will be explaining, giving you relationship between variables or amongst variables. So to determine a causal relationship or an explanatory study, it is important for the researcher to hold the variable that is assumed to cause the change in the other variable constant. So the researcher can hold one variable constant and then measure the changes in the other variable. Look at this. A researcher conducts a study to determine the influence that availability of electricity has on sleeping hours in homes, on children's sleeping hours in homes. Look at that. So there are two variables there: electricity and sleeping hours of children. So apparently when there is electricity in the home, the children go to bed late, and therefore the effect is that they won't wake up sooner in order to prepare for school. Now there is another situation. If we want to see whether this is electricity is a problem, then we say let's hold one variable constant, and that variable is let's put electricity off this time and see whether the children will sleep. So we cut off the electricity, and this time they went to bed earlier, or they did not go to bed. Okay, let's say they went to bed earlier. Then another time we put on the electricity, they went to bed very late. Now the finding of that study can be, it is an explanatory study. The researcher can explain now. They say there is a relationship that whenever electricity is in the home, the children go to bed late. Predictive research. This research is meant to predict, right? It often asks how this thing happened, how well it happened. Now let's look at predictive. What is the likelihood of an adolescent with clinically diagnosed depression committing suicide in the 12 months after first diagnosis? The adolescent who has been diagnosed with depression committing suicide, how do we determine the likelihood, right? Is it that such a person has committed suicide before? Well, we are predicting the likelihood, foretelling the outcome, what will happen when this thing happens, how it happened, how often. Okay? Now, how do we form research purpose? To form research purpose, it is important to first design a general purpose. A general purpose. When you are doing your dissertation, your thesis, or whatsoever you want to create or form a research purpose. So, for example, we say the overall purpose of this study is to investigate the strategy used by private schools to increase school fees in Dole community and the impact it has on learning. So you see, we design this research purpose and say, this is the purpose that a researcher wants to have. It's a general purpose. But what specifically are you going to be looking for? Are you just going to look broadly? So we say the next step to forming a good research purpose is to identify the specific purpose of each or every key variable in the general purpose. What are those variables? That you see here, drawing out plan. Drawing out plan, installment payment plan, and parent involvement. They are specific purposes of what variable in the general purpose. We say it is. They are specific of strategy used by private school to increase, because there are two things here. Strategy used by private school to increase school fees is the general purpose, and the impact it has. So we'll be looking at the strategy and we'll be looking at the impact. So to look at the strategy, you got to define specifically which aspect of the strategy. The first aspect of the strategy you want to look at is school drawing out plan, payment plan. How well they can carry on payment. Maybe they say, okay, pay 20% now, pay 30%. Payment plan, we want to investigate that. Installment payment plan, right? Whether you pay by installment. Parent involvement. Do you want to just increase school fees without involving the parents? No. So we say one key strategy could be to involve the parents. So we want to look at how are they involving the parents. How are they doing installment plan? How does the plan look? You see? So now you come down, you also see just the same thing with impact. Lastly, what do? You state the specific purposes of the research, which is mostly your objective. We say, how do private schools draw out plan to increase school fees in Dole community? You see? So based on the specificity here, we can now draw out a specific purpose for the research. So this study will be specifically, the purpose of this study will be to investigate how private schools draw out plan to increase school fees in Dole community. You see? Earlier we just said to investigate strategy, but what strategies? There are many. And then we define the strategies. Then the next thing we'll say how each of these strategies we can use as specific examples. Okay? Now it is your time. Form a research purpose based on what you have learned. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking time with us in today's class. We would like you to join us in our next class, which will be basically about how to create a research or write a dissertation or thesis. Goodbye. Bye-bye.